Alright, welcome back to Game 10 of Lucid's 2022 tournament, where we are playing Phlegra. It is turn 39, and we are gambling big. We're hoping for 2 major battles this turn, putting it all on black. We do finish our research in evocation level 5. That could be critical, because we're hoping to drop a few rocks from the sky. We cloud trapezed in a fellow. This is just an extra mage that we're hoping to participate in a battle, really to help make up for the fact that one of our tyrants went insane and isn't going to be supporting us. We're doing a bit of site searching, but none of it worked out. And then there are a couple battles, some of which are not ours. And it looks like we only get attacked in one place, so I'm thinking that there's only going to be one major battle here. I think the other one is a raid that I forgot to mention last turn. This is a Vedheim attack on Utgard. This is a little problematic for us. We do want to make sure that Vedheim, right, we're planning on fighting Utgard's main forces, although it's looking like we only fought one of them. But worst case scenario, we take all the losses, but get none of the gains. And like I said, Vedheim has been careful. They're taking care of themselves. I don't have a problem with that. I think completely acceptable. But we need to make sure we take care of ourselves. So depending on how all this shakes out, we've talked before about how Vedheim is kind of sitting on some places, really mostly Xibalba, but also that other Utgard fort. There's a lot of room for collision. Vedheim also definitely has their work cut out for them diplomatically, and I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this raiding force here. Just Utgard again investing a lot in unsupported province defense, which is pretty interesting. Although again, it works out for them. So that's something that is often discouraged, but so far I would say more often than not it has worked out for Utgard. And in some ways, when you have really bad scales, it can be very difficult to recruit enough troops, to kind of cover all locations. So maybe it's this looks like a throne battle from Mictlan, so that's interesting. They're clearly not too worried about Vedheim, since they're committing some forces to a throne. But anyway, with a really hell-blessed sacred build, I've noticed that it can be kind of difficult to recruit enough regular troops to cover all of your territory. So possibly in that case it makes more sense to invest heavily in province defense, and that can essentially be all of your defensive armies. This could be the throne that's on our border, actually, that we were thinking Mictlan was going to get. So yeah, there's some turkeys here, jaguar warriors, quickness of course being the biggest element on this bless, some wooden warriors, so alt 5 research, body ethereal. This isn't a particularly dangerous throne in a lot of ways, and maybe we should have jumped on it sooner, but again, I don't really want to antagonize my neighbors. Let me turn on king-colored squares here. Really the X factor, is the Titan back here, but it looks like she's mostly just casting Swarm or maybe Creeping Doom, not really even any Howl or anything like that. So, some of these jaguars actually are going into werewolf form, so it does look like Mictlan, is taking some losses, but I mean, militia, earth gnomes, fine ogres, fine men, none of these are particularly scary troops, for fairly heavily blessed sacreds. Yeah. So actually not that dangerous of a throne. Again, there's an argument that maybe we should have been the one to jump on it. But of course we have commitments elsewhere. So yeah, not too many losses. Really 7 jaguar warriors is probably the most relevant thing. Actually losing the turkey, that's a little sad. But yeah, nothing that they can't handle. 125 gold, fast, normal to recruit. And recruit anywhere. So yeah, nicely done from Mictlan. And also indicative that, they're feeling okay in terms of this war against Vedheim. So let's see. This is just a ping, it looks like. I'm not really sure. Just a little bit of swarm, I guess. Maybe thinking that we were going to move off again. Yeah. I don't think this is going to trigger gem usage for us, which is very important. Gem burns would probably be the best way to deal with the armies that we've put together. Because they are incredibly susceptible to that. So we get no major battles, which is a bit sad, because like I said, I was hoping, to reach the decision point before I had to sub out again briefly here, but it looks like that's not going to happen. And I guess it makes sense. And so yeah, we don't see an attack, so this is probably going to be our raiding force running into Utgard's main force? No, they went somewhere else. Maybe to deal with a Vedheim threat or something like that. So they left a pretty standard amount of province defense here, and this is just some of our Mouflon, which should work out just fine. We are using an indie commander, which is not great, because we don't get the bonus, the taskmaster bonus, so our morale is a little rough, but it does work out for us. So I guess overall, good result in terms of this turn. We don't lose any territory, but we also don't force the battles that we were hoping to force. Although, yeah, we do crack the fort here, right? So we can storm. That is a potential problem, although it's a pretty empty fort. So, I mean, there are some mages in here, but I think we just have enough troops that it shouldn't be a problem in the sense of we may have to fight 2 battles in one turn, and we don't really have the gems to cover that. But, if Utgard does respond, we'll fight that battle first with their main force, and we'll spend our gems there, and then we'll go in with whatever's left against the fort with, no gems. But it's just mages in there. I don't know, they'll probably spam out a bunch of bugs. It could be a problem not having the gems. We'll see. We do have some reloads, so we could load our mages up with even more gems, but, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to do that. We'll see. I'll have to think on it. And then, yeah, we have a battle. I think this is it. Raga has gone AI, the sub. Yeah, they're like, there's not really anything left. I'd say that's a pretty accurate statement. Atlantis, not using too much. Let's see, they got a mine burn. Oh, speaking of gifts from heaven, looks like, yeah, they also have some Earth Astral from something. I'm not actually super familiar with Atlantis. Oh, yeah, okay, these Forgiving Fathers. Interesting. So yeah, I think, it could get a little painful actually in terms of friendly fire, and then, just some fire elementals being spammed out, which, pretty effective. I mean, considering that there's like 1 mage here, so they're not going to love those fire elementals, but yeah, Atlantis has no shortage of magic weapons, so they're able to take that out pretty quickly. Not too much friendly fire, it looks like. Yeah, they are able to take that with the minimum of losses, although they're not up against a whole lot. Then we have, I think this is a storm from Vettiheim on one of the last remaining, Gath forts. And there is a good amount in here, actually, quite a lot. Well, I thought these were all mages, and I guess they kind of are in a sense, but they have no magic paths, it looks like, or maybe from their description it sounds like occasionally they random into a magic path. So they're purely researchers, which seems... Okay, yeah, this guy's not the same. I'm like, oh, here's somebody, but no, this is a different mage. So there's actually not much in here, really, like just some mundane troops and some researchers. That definitely seems pretty ballsy, recruiting this number of researchers. Like, that's, feels greedy, because, like, these guys are literally useless. Oh, wait, there you go. Some of them have some magic paths. But, still not exactly impressive, especially when this is like the good combat result, and most of them can do nothing, which, is not really what you want out of your mages. So I guess Gath was, planning on doing a bunch of researching and hopefully making it to the late game. But, yeah, certainly, like, if I knew Gath better, and I dropped some scouts onto their forts and I saw that they just had a bunch of these, sages, it's like, okay, they don't actually have a mage core, so probably time to attack. So, yeah, I don't know. Seems risky. They're probably pretty efficient researchers. They're not actually particularly fast researchers. Yeah, wow, okay. 18 gold a year for, what was it, like 7 or 8? Okay, this guy's 6 research for, he doesn't have as much experience. But still, that is a lot of value. So I can definitely understand the temptation, but, there's the problem. Right there goes your mage core. So I do think Vettiheim is going to come away with this. And without too many losses either, nothing that they can't afford. And I think that might do it for Gath. They might have one more fort. Yeah, it looks like they have one more fort. I think that Ulm is on top of. So that's it for battles. We have some unexpected events. I forgot about those barbarians. I also forgot about the arena battles. But it does look like some other people sent some stuff. Although it looks like we lucked out. I'll have to go back and look and see. Sometimes the barbarians, take a turn before they attack. None of these are particularly bad. We even get some blood slaves out of it. So, and 7 gems. So that's actually a very good turn for us in terms of events. And then there's one arena battle between Vettiheim and Marignon. This is a people's death match. So this hag cannot do any spell casting, she's not particularly impressive. Looks like Marignon has an assassin, with a lifelong protection. That's a pretty solid assassin, and also a decent choice for the arena. And let's see what they end up getting. Because I definitely forgot to check. No, it looks like we're not playing with any of the arena mods. The Champion's Trident is a vanilla item, and it's, it's not going to be particularly useful on that assassin, although I do think it gives luck, so, it's kind of nice to have on a human assassin. And then we breach the fort, as discussed. We do a little bit of patrolling, which we do desperately need. We need to do more patrolling, and then Raga has been permanently vanquished. and I'll catch you guys after the cut. All right, this is the situation and what we did about it. Recording this from the future. I think two main things, our two main armies, one of which we are sending home, it looks like. This is probably motivated by the fact that we're losing out on a ton of research every turn that this army is in the field. And taking this fight into province defense, we've discussed this plenty of times. This is going to be a rough battle. We're also a little weaker in the north. We don't need to force this fight because I think should successfully have forced a fight here in the south. If Utgard chooses not to attack, then I think we have a pretty good chance at taking this fortification. So since things are going better in the south and we don't really need to force a fight, in the north anymore, we can send this home. It does leave us open to losing some of these provinces, but Utgard hasn't attacked, so, they don't really seem in a rush to attack our army, and they don't know that we're moving, so we should at least hold on to this province for one more turn. This is a really valuable province, maybe worth putting a fort on, but we're possibly already, over on infrastructure. I do think Phlegra wants a lot of forts to recruit, a lot of their cheap shackled mages. And speaking of infrastructure, right, we are building a lab down here, though we did not have the money to actually start upgrading the palisade. I'm sure we will get to that. But anyway, so pulling back in the north, we're storming in the south. Unfortunately, our hero tyrant here is insane again, so he will not be present for the battle if there is a battle. And that's, just sort of how it goes. Speaking of wasting research, we just have these shackled mages sort of awkwardly hanging out here. Don't love this, obviously. But, I think if we commit this is the replacement communion, essentially. And if we commit it, right, to this battle, I think we're just going to end up burning out, more shackled mages. You could certainly try to go the route of, just bringing an absolute ton of shackled mages in the hopes, that you finish the battle quickly enough and you have enough communion slaves to spread out the fatigue that you're not going to burn them out. With all the off-path casting and the fact that it probably isn't going to be that fast of a battle, I don't know. I have definitely lost some pretty massive communions. I think there's 20-ish augurs once that I burned out. And so now my feeling for human communions is, especially rough communions like this, is you just try to minimize losses, right? The expectation here is that these guys are all going to die, but, we're not going to lose that many of them. Not necessarily the best approach. We'll see how it goes. Speaking of seeing how it goes, we did not distribute all of our extra gems. So, we'll see. Like I said, we might have to fight 2 battles here, and that could be a problem. We don't actually really have any extra nature gems to be handing out, but, we certainly could have used some of these other extra gems, but, we don't necessarily have an abundance of gems. Do have a lot of water gems, which we probably should be trading, though there are some uses, we do have some water mages. We do have another tyrant out and about. He's up here. He's doing a little bit of site searching on his way out. These are our only national death. I do think, putting some death on your pretenders, Phlegra, probably something I would try in the future. Not guaranteed, but I think kind of jump starting some of that gem income could be pretty nice, because again, it's kind of rough having these guys site search. It's not really something you want to be doing a lot, though I do think in this case, right, there isn't going to be some critical battle here happening. These guys aren't particularly valuable researchers, so I think it's wherever you can get some site searching in with them, I say go for it, but you're probably not going to want to cover your entire lands with having these guys site search them. So that covers the majority of our movements. We are moving some fellows out to try to deal with these barbarians. So, we'll see if they actually show up. We are actually starting to get to the point, where we're getting some decent patrol groups up here. We kind of have 3 patrol groups. So I feel at least 1 patrol group, probably per fortification or per really valuable province seems reasonable. If we just take a look quickly at our unrest here, we can see there are definitely a couple of locations that are getting hit pretty hard, some of these, 69 income, 28 unrest. We probably could be getting a lot more from this province. So this is something that you should probably keep an eye on more. I didn't really utilize this as much in this playthrough. But we do at least have a decent number of patrollers now, so we're starting to bring down some of the most egregious examples of unrest. Not a lot in the way of troop recruitment, a little bit up here on our other throne, some Mouflon. I think we do more or less have full mage recruitment, so definitely happy about that. We will have another Tyrant coming out next turn. That is part of the reason that we don't really have Nature Gem reloads. We're forging another Ring of Regeneration here, so we only get 6 Nature Gems a turn. So that making a Ring of Regeneration every other turn takes the majority of our Nature income. Hopefully in future we'll maybe strip the Rings of Regeneration off of these guys once this battle is finished, because these guys are okay thugs, but obviously our Tyrants are much better, so these guys probably no longer warrant getting the Ring of Regeneration. I think that mostly covers it in terms of what we're up to. We did actually get to see Utgard fought some false prophets here, so we can actually have a look what kind of army they're rocking, which we've seen a lot of this stuff before. A lot more undead support now. Obviously some province defense in this case, which won't be participating if they attack us. Looks like they do have some Scrotty set up here, so this is probably a turbo communion. And of course a lot of their sacreds. I don't actually see any gems with this force, though they certainly could bring some gems out on the mages that are inside their fortification. So, this is not... If we do fight a battle on top of the fort, there will be more mages. And yeah, this is a pretty large communion, so this is a pretty major commitment. Yeah, we've got 8 communion slaves here, so a little surprised that there's no gems, but like I said, I have a feeling that potentially the mages inside the fort will be bringing the gems out. But of course, you don't need any gems to spam out an absolute ton of skeletons. So, potentially they're looking to just save on gems and feeling that a ton of skeletons will be enough, which, yeah, a ton of skeletons definitely can be dangerous. So definitely excited for that battle. Atlantis, of course, has finished off Raga, so now they're sort of free to operate against Utgard. Haven't really seen a lot of movement on that front, so they, again, may have made peace. But now that they have no other commitments, hopefully they'll commit more heavily against Utgard. They do have a Indie throne here on their borders, and this is a little more of a dangerous one, so they might be thinking about that first. And then it turns out that Mictlan did not take that throne that's on our border. There's actually a different throne with very similar defenders over here near Vedheim, so, it makes sense. This army didn't really take any significant losses, so still absolutely ready to move forward against Vedheim. But otherwise, I'd say it seems like this war between Mictlan and Vedheim has been pretty back and forth, with neither side really, gaining a major advantage. So we'll have to see if that continues. Of course, Vedheim took this fortification from Gath. Speaking of Gath, they only have one cracked fort here, almost sitting on top of that. Still haven't seen any attacks from Marignon. We don't really have a lot of eyes on Marignon. But supposedly they're going to be attacking Vedheim. You would think that if they were, they'd want to attack Vedheim before they took this. I think this is a giant citadel, which is a real pain to break down. But potentially they have a non-aggression pact, right? That's ticking down that they don't want to break. So we'll have to try to keep an eye on this border and see where Marignon goes. And then, of course, Ulm also largely uncommitted. So, it'd be interesting to see what this army does once it knocks out this Gath fortification. And I think that covers the majority of what we know about the world, at least from our scout network. And I think that more or less covers turn 39.